So, welcome back to another exciting, thrilling, extraordinary, I can add more adjectives, episode.
Yeah, we're back in black.
Of Let's Discuss.
I'm going to wear red, white, and blue, actually.
Oh.
We got all the colors. But this is not an episode about unicorns.
Oh.
Not at all. Instead,
It's not Deadpool?
I know, amid all your disappointment. No, instead we're talking about a bird and then a soldier.
A bird and a bucky.
Who survived a winter.
Winter. They were very plucky.
It just cost him an arm, almost a leg.
God, how many puns are we going to do about this?
One too many.
Yes, but we're going to talk about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So, before we get started, let's just put this out there and make sure it's clear for everybody listening. Spoilers abound. So, there'll be spoilers everywhere if you have not seen the series, or if you just don't care about the, spoilers, then go ahead and continue on.
I'm pretty sure you're safe anyway.
Yeah, let's talk about Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
We should talk about that shield. Or
Which one?
shields.
The Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.s?
Which agent? The U.S. agent?
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I thought you said Sheol. But I am writing Gloom right now. Stay tuned.
All right, let's go ahead and get into this and start discussing. And we'll go ahead and start. I'm going to go backwards this time.
That's not backwards.
I didn't know I was going
That's how we've gone
backwards.
for the past 5 weeks.
Well, you guys always do it backwards, because clockwise is this way, people.
I go counterclockwise.
Not from this side.
When you're right-handed.
So just my name.
Yeah, just introduce yourself.
I'm Quinn.
Oh,
You know.
hey man.
Tell you what, introduce yourself, and then give us your first impression of the series.
Well, I've already said my name 3 times now. First impressions. I was pretty excited.
Wait, what was your name?
Quinn.
Hi, Quinn.
Hi, Quinn.
Hi.
It's nice to have you, baby.
What was your first impression again?
I was really excited for it. Yeah, I mean that's about it. I was excited for it.
Well, that's first impression of the trailer.
That,
How'd you feel when you watched the first episode?
I was more excited.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'll get into the meat and potatoes. As
all
we
right,
answer
man,
questions.
that's contagious. Okay.
Wait, there were potatoes?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to need you to tone down the excitement for just a minute.
Take it down a notch.
Just tone it down.
Laura, are you discussing with us?
I don't even have a mic.
So
We
it
have
goes-
an observer.
It goes to me then.
Lean really close into Quinn's neck.
Hello.
We need you for, the audience track that we put in there later.
Yeah, clap and laugh.
Yeah.
Boo.
Laura, we're going to
Now to give her
all of
something to
that,
cheer for.
and
I'm
then just
Tony,
throw it in occasionally.
And I gotta tell you, my first impression of the series was that it was very much so in line with what the MCU is. It wasn't as far out and far-fetched as WandaVision was. There was no mind-bending going on here. It was straightforward action-adventure, buddy cop drama.
I'm Jessica.
Hi, Jessica.
I loved the first episode. I was immediately hooked on the show, which it took me a lot longer to get hooked on WandaVision. But I loved the first episode. I thought it had a lot of good things going for it.
Okay, my name is John. Oh, jeez, I didn't even see you there.
Here's Tim over there.
Sorry, Dan.
Oh, wait. Let's go back in time.
I'm
Erase
stealthy
that.
like the Winter Soldier.
Now, we got to close that loop, though.
Erase that divergent path.
I'm Dan, and I'm sitting next to John.
This is identifying features that he's
And I actually really was looking forward to this. I've got a video game where I've been playing Captain America costume for Falcon, and I've been doing that for a couple of years. So I was really excited to actually see this character go that direction.
You mean there was foreshadowing to this happening?
Yeah, it's called a comic book.
I read the book. Actually, I watched a YouTube video about somebody that read the book.
Simpsons
You read the Cliff Notes version?
Yeah.
No, this was the Cliff Notes version.
But I enjoyed it. John.
Oh, it's my turn. Sorry.
That's your turn.
Yes, my name is John, and I had multiple first impressions of the show because I was exposed to previews, and then there was a long period and then more previews. So at first I didn't care. I just didn't really care about the characters, and so I wasn't interested in watching them. But then the next preview, it kind of got me excited. And then I watched the first episode, and then I didn't care again. It is. It was a roller coaster, very emotional. And then, I slowly got back into it. And by the end of it, there's some moments when I'm, fighting back, some swelling emotions inside me. It's I can't embarrass myself. So, I won that battle, but it was hard.
You can be yourself.
Get back in
No,
there, too.
no.
I know what one of those parts was.
Okay.
You were about to cry at the Zemo dance.
Oh, my God. Baron Zemo is my favorite character.
Understandably.
All right. And I am Scott, and I will be the lovely little moderator here tonight for this little discussion.
You're very lovely.
Lovely.
That was
yes.
accurate.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So, let's go ahead and let's move on to our first little topic here. And I think this is pretty fitting for it. For those unaware, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier was actually supposed to be released before WandaVision was. But then pandemic happened, all things got timey-wimey, didn't happen. So with that said, how do you all feel about this leading after the events of Endgame? Picking up just, maybe a few months after the events of Endgame? How do you guys feel that the series did, connecting from this series and the events that happened to the big MCU, universe?
Assuming that Falcon and the Winter Soldier's happening, the same time Peter Parker's going on his class trip to, Europe to all the sciencey stuff. I thought it did pretty well. That's probably one of my favorite parts about the broad scope of the MCU is just seeing, what different characters have been up to this whole time.
I'll agree with him on that. I would say that WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Spider-Man, what was that?
Homecoming?
No, Far From Home, sorry. I would think that all three of those happen at the same time. They're coinciding in that moment. So this is where Spider-Man got to after Tony snapped. This is where the Falcon and the Winter Soldier are after Steve aged out, and this is where Wanda is after Vision stays dead, and she basically puts the can of
What?
Ash.
She takes the ashtray out of Thanos. Anyway, save me there. Thanks, guys.
What the Flargan?
Well, Stein. No, I think that it does really well at picking up the type of story that you would see in each of them. Peter Parker with his more high school tomfoolery, Wanda with a little bit more mind-bending, reality-altering hijinks, and then the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is straightforward, kind of like espionage, soldier-type stories to tell. I thought it did really well. I don't know what the Black Widow's been doing, though.
We'll find out.
Maybe.
I'm hoping we will find out.
Oh, that's still happening. I keep forgetting that even exists.
That's a real movie.
Hopefully, what is it, June, July, right?
July.
July
Supposedly.
this time.
Happy birthday to us.
Yeah.
Well, I know what the Black Widow's doing during this time.
She's been dead.
Yeah. Yeah, she's not doing anything.
This version of her.
I think that movie's actually supposed to take place in the past, though.
Yeah.
If I'm
No,
understanding correctly.
this is the alternate reality version of Black Widow that was hiding on Thanos' ship
where she lives.
whenever
This
he
is
came.
White Suit Widow.
Yeah.
The White Widow.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed the idea that, at least until y'all mentioned it, I didn't actually make that connection with Spider-Man as well. But ever since Endgame, they've been doing essentially therapy movies. They're showing the actual impact that Endgame had on all of these characters.
Endgame was a therapy movie.
A little bit.
Well, 'cause there was a
Infinity
huge
War
chunk
was
of
one that was
time.
very difficult for me to recover from walking out of the theater.
Yeah.
And for a lot of these characters, that was the last thing they remember before they walked onto a battlefield to fight Thanos.
Because we have to get back what we lost.
Yeah.
But we
Imagine
have
that.
to keep what we found.
Hopefully.
You come back and you're like, where's the battle at? Go to the battle.
Yeah.
Or as John Red says, go to the action.
Or, as Sam
But-
Wilson says, on your left.
Yeah.
Don't say it.
Don't you say it.
Well,
Why not?
now he can almost say it because he trained against the trees.
And as we all know, trees.
Trees.
Oh, the real enemy.
They'll put you down. Don't trust a tree.
My thoughts on how it integrated with the whole like blip thing. Well, I really like that Marvel is kind of like taking the time to focus on that kind of aftermath. The casualties and the consequences of winning the day, right? And a lot of movies in the past or stories in the past, they end there where the heroes win the day, they save everybody, bring everybody back to life, and they cut off. And there are consequences, real world consequences for, all of a sudden there's like 4 billion people more than you're used to.
Well, for a few years.
Yeah. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
you don't have credit anymore.
Well, I mean, you get used to, having all this extra space and extra. Once you adjust to it, now you have to readjust back, and it's interesting. But the problem is, I did not feel that with this series. They mentioned it a lot, but they didn't show it enough to make it impact for me. So really, it was just kind of an afterthought when they mentioned it. I was like, oh yeah. So that's what all this is about. And it wasn't like at the forefront of my mind when I was watching it, and I feel it should have been. And it could be a failing of my own and not the writers, but
Well, they were
That's-
these terrorists running
yeah,
around
yeah,
killing
yeah.
people about it.
It's the main plot point of the show. The blip happened and caused all these problems, which introduced, in quotation mark, terrorists, people.
And bankers.
Yeah, yeah.
Terrorists and bankers.
But I just didn't feel
I
that
want to put
for
bankers
some
in
reason.
quotes.
Like I said, it could just be
Yeah.
me, a
Yeah.
failing of my own. But I because they did show some consequences, but I don't know, I felt it more in WandaVision with the chaos in the hospital, and I felt it more in Endgame with the aftermath and the therapy sessions, and people dealing with depression because of it. I didn't feel it at all because they would just casually mention it, yes, this is going on. They didn't show it well enough for me, I guess.
In this.
Yeah, in this series. For this,
Yeah, I
series,
felt
yeah.
it a lot more in WandaVision.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, on that point, I feel like the reason why is because there was so much more going on that they had
Mhm.
to deal with. WandaVision was stuck to her little city, so of course you're going to get to focus on the whole grand scheme of it. But Bucky
And the city was stuck in her
Well,
mind.
yeah, but Bucky and Sam are like, okay, cool. We've got this new Cap who, is crazy, and now we have this terrorist group that we have to stop. I don't think they really had time to focus on the effect of the blip.
Oh, and hey, by the
On-
way,
I
I
remember.
blipped and I can't afford to help my sister pay for her boat.
That too.
Yeah.
And, oh, by the way, I'm in therapy because I killed a whole lot
Yeah.
of people for over 90 years.
Yep.
Yeah, but that wasn't blip related.
I
No,
feel
that
like
was
that's
just
the
Winter
reason
Soldier.
why they didn't focus on the blip so much is because
Bucky's-
they kind of had to put their issues aside with it to help save the world.
Well, they had a lot going
Like a
on,
soldier would.
character-wise.
Well, and
Right.
they in WandaVision was all about grief and all about that loss, and then this one was more. I felt was more about the impacts it had on the rest of the
world.
world and the families of the people who are gone, like his
Finding your
sister.
place in the world,
Well, I mean,
for everybody,
and
even
how
the
heavy a
terrorists.
burden is to pick up someone else's legacy and make it your own.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that in just a moment here. So, for me, I think I agree with y'all what you were saying with the after Endgame. You had basically a high schooler, who just came back, has to finish high school.
Yeah, I
he's
can't
being-
take that one seriously. That
You
one's
know?
not even on my radar.
While
for-
he's being asked if he's going to be the next Tony
Iron
Stark.
Man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
can't
Or
take
Iron
him
Spider
seriously.
or whatever you want to call him. So they had to deal with that. Then you also have WandaVision, who, like you said, she's dealing with grief. She had her own stuff going on, because some people didn't come back.
Yeah.
So you have to deal with that, But then you have this where it's like it says, like a little buddy cop drama, But at the same time, it did tackle some of those issues after Endgame more so than it did the other ones. Like with Spider-Man, I mean, yeah, the blip was mentioned, but it didn't really focus on any of that. It was just like this takes place afterwards, pretty much. We're throwing in little snippets here and there, and that's pretty much it. The rest of it's, hey, look, there's 4 elemental creatures you gotta handle.
That's an Avengers level threat, though.
Well, so
Yeah.
I think that's something that I appreciated about Spider-Man, though, because so often I feel through the earlier MCU movies, we're looking at villains and threats that were a product of Tony Stark, and fast forward after the blip, here's a high schooler having to deal with a problem Tony inadvertently created. So
Well, because those people had an impact on the world around them.
yeah.
Big people do. They're not always seen as the good guy or the
Yeah.
bad guy, but they are important.
Yeah.
So,
One thing I thought about WandaVision, since we're talking about this blip thing, is it really paralleled her loss and her grief and the extreme measure she was going through to deal with that. Really paralleled Hawkeye and what he was going through after the loss of Black Widow, and like how he just went crazy. And
He handled it pretty well.
yeah,
I mean, he had pretty good anger management.
Yeah, he handled that way better than he handled the loss of his family.
that's
Yeah.
true.
During
Yeah,
the
so
blip,
all
he
of
lost
that.
his
Yeah,
family.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was a very intense parallel between those two because they both went crazy.
Well, he was her mentor.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on
Cities flying,
to the next lovely segment here.
killer robots.
Characters. So let's talk about the characters. Let's go ahead and let's discuss your opinion here on the portrayal of the characters, depth of the characters and such, but then also tell us who is your favorite character.
Okay. Well, may come as a surprise. I haven't read all the comic books, and I want to go back and read them. But going into it, I guess I wasn't the biggest fan of anyone. But after I started watching the show, I was like, okay, so Bucky's character was really interesting to me because I like tragic heroes. Was a bad guy, but not because of his own choosing, and now he's trying to make amends for it. So I definitely went back and started watching more of the movies that he was in, and it doesn't hurt that Sebastian Stan is hot. He is
He's hotter with long hair though.
debatable.
No, I'm right.
He looks nice and clean cut. Now you can see his facial
Okay,
features.
nice and clean
looks-
cut
I
does
mean,
not equal hot.
He comes out of the blip and gets a
thirst
haircut.
for Sebastian Stan is there. Long hair or not.
What about bearded Sebastian Stan? How's
Yes.
that?
Bearded with long hair? Yes. Let's combine
It's
this.
got to be a short beard, though. Those are the rules. You can have a long beard, but you have to have short hair.
He never got to have a cat beard.
I don't know. I
The
thought
nomad beard.
the new Captain
tree
America
beard.
is yours.
Yeah, she loves him. She loves him more than I love
Are we
Michael
talking
B.
about
Jordan.
our least favorite characters and our favorite? All
But
right.
Characters in general.
I do appreciate how Sam eventually, pulls himself up by the bootstraps. Like, okay, Steve left me with this. I need to rise to the challenge and, essentially stop running from what's been asked of me. So I really like that. Walker, what's his first name?
John.
John
His name is
Walker.
John.
I mean, I thought he
Squish
was
face, let's just call him
interesting,
that.
but at the same time,
He had an ugly face.
well, it's not about his face being ugly.
He did
It's,
have an ugly face.
I feel
Hold on, before we get too carried away, this is Kurt Russell's son. Okay,
so what?
I don't want Kurt Russell showing up to my doorstep and not liking me.
I don't think Kurt Russell cares.
it
about
has
you.
nothing to do with the way
I'm just repeating
the
what I
character
heard.
Looked. I just, you sit through all these
behavior.
characters and I felt like he focused on his own shortcomings like the entire time. He's like he was mopey because, well, man, I'm not a super soldier, and oh, these people aren't even super soldiers or kick him up. Like, what the heck, man?
Well, he
Yeah.
had a lot of envy and a lot of greed for
Yeah.
what he saw other people have, and he wanted to have it too.
Yeah.
Well, I think he just wanted to have it because he had been put up on a pedestal and he was trying to like be the person that he thought everyone thought he should be, and he was not living up to that, and it made him depressed.
Well, I mean, when the previous Captain
hurt
America
you?
was Steve
Who
Rogers,
hurt
that's
you,
like an
John?
impossible standard to live up to. That's like with Sam
We
Wilson.
did.
He's going to have to divert and be his own Captain America.
And he's already started doing that. Too.
And I think that was like his big takeaways because he, I feel, was in the same boat as Walker. How can I be as good as Steve? Not how can I be the embodiment of Captain America.
That's why
without
he
being-
rejects
But see,
shield
the
to
thing
begin
at the
with,
end
yeah.
of the day was always this. And, okay, first off, I think Baron Zemo was the coolest character.
Oh, thank you so much. I agree completely.
Now, right back on top of it, though, Bucky is still really neat. I think that like he said, tortured hero kind of thing, but he is going to lead into my statement now of what Steve Rogers was. Steve Rogers was Captain America, yes, but he was Captain America of the 1940s. His ideals, his morals, his ethics, his type of mentality and work ethic all fits within that great generation. Okay, and when I say the great generation, I mean like it's literally just called that as a generational gap. It's the great generation. So that's where he fits. Now, when he woke up off the ice and he is put into the Avengers, he's put around all these other people, he's not really, the world's more so imposing upon him because he's taken the time to try and figure out what's going on, just like Bucky's doing in this. I've got to get used to things. I've got to read Cap's book. I've got to find out what I missed. So much of what he was, people were being inspired by because it had nothing to do with them, their lives, what they had grown up around, what they had seen, more so an old code of conduct that almost seems to be going archaic every day. So for Sam Wilson to step in and become Captain America, he is Captain America, yeah, and that's great. And I'm happy for that. There's a little bit of trauma and tragedy implied to him taking up the mantle that I don't understand necessarily, but maybe that's not my point. When he steps in, he's becoming a Captain America for this generation. He was a soldier of this generation, went through our wars, has grown up in our trials and tribulations, so he has something to say in a different way. And I think that that's what's important about him being Cap, not so much that there's a black Captain America versus a white Captain America, but there are these two people from two different generations that have something to say about the generation they're from.
My favorite character, what were we saying besides characters? Is that it?
Yeah.
My favorite character actually, and this is saying a whole bunch, because I originally, when Cap first gave the shield to Sam Wilson, I was like, I do not understand his choice. Why in the world did he pick this guy? And then I went back and rewatched the MCU, both in release order and in chronological order. And I really like him. I think it's a good choice. He is the embodiment of all the same ideals, just without the super soldier part. So even though Bucky is really gorgeous, and I love him, and I really feel for his trying to work his way through his program, I have to say that Sam Wilson's my favorite. Yeah, I really enjoyed the relationship between the two characters and their whole therapy session together and how they had to learn how to work together. The whole thing with Sam's sister was kind of funny too.
Oh yeah. Well, Chris, what's up?
Steering contests are awesome.
How you doing?
I personally, I've really enjoyed this version of Falcon.
Yeah.
Like this costume is the one that made me want to play him in my game. And the idea of him stepping up as Captain America was always what I expected from this show.
Mm-hmm.
But the character that I was most excited whenever they came on screen was Sharon Carter. because we haven't seen anything from her since Civil War. She just disappeared.
Yeah, it's been like 5 years since we've seen her. She's been busy.
More.
And to see that
Even
she
more.
actually
Like since Civil War, like
Yeah.
before the band broke up.
It's like 6 years.
Nobody even
to
cared.
see that she's actually been putting something together. She's built her own, essentially, empire. And then to find out that she was the one running the other super soldiers.
Yeah, I mean, she's like Nick Cage, you know.
Yeah,
Lord of War.
yeah.
So she was the one texting her that we're going to get you. You stole what's mine, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's see. Well, first off, my favorite character is the Baron.
Because he's cool.
I mean, he is cool. I'll explain why in a second. But I want to comment on what Quinn had mentioned. In regards to John Walker, and it occurred to me that both Falcon and Walker were asked to take on the same responsibility, and the weight of it affected them in different ways. Walker, the good soldier he is, feels he has to take it, but is unprepared for the responsibility, has a lot of self-doubt. Falcon also has a lot of self-doubt, but and because so, he refuses the responsibility. And their approaches are, very different because they're very different people in the way they live their lives. I think it's interesting watching that happen. They're not bad people. Like, I don't think John Walker is a bad, evil person. I think he's just a person, put in a very difficult situation, and he succumbed to that difficulty. Quite spectacularly. But anyway, Baron Zemo, I really like him because he does not possess the same faults in the Falcon and John do, in that he is very decisive. He knows exactly what he wants, and then he goes and makes it happen. And that can be, even though he is kind of a bad guy, he has his own sense of ideals and what's right and what's wrong, and he sticks to it. And he is not afraid, unlike, the earlier Falcon, who was obviously afraid to take up that mantle and responsibility.
Like if DC had actually made a good Lex Luthor.
Yes. He's actually, there's a lot of qualities that are admirable, but you can admire qualities in a person, but disagree with, methodology or their action. I think Baron Zemo, if he was on the good guy's side, so to speak, would be an invaluable asset. He's like that level. He can compete on the same level as, wannabe Captain America and Winter Soldier and Falcon, superheroes. And he's just a man. He seeing what he did in the Civil War, completely undermining the entirety of the Avengers. One human being. With the will to do it. He's very impressive. So he's my favorite character in the show. I love his dance, too.
It's number one hit. So, let's see. For me, as far as characters go, I like how they brought in some familiar faces. They brought in Sharon, they brought in, obviously, Falcon, Winter Soldier, Zemo, but they also brought in some new faces, too. Battlestar, let's not forget about him. Okay, he's the one that set, John Walker over the edge.
Yeah.
The events that led up to his death, So they brought him in, brought in John Walker, and they even brought in a few others that we were surprised about. It's like, whoa, we see where this is going. And so I thought it was really neat how they started introducing more to characters. To me, it felt like they were introducing a lot more than in WandaVision. Because WandaVision was specifically focused on, basically Wanda and Vision. And a little bit other than that, but for the most part it was them, So they didn't really bring in too many outside characters, to connect. But in Falcon and Winter Soldier, it felt like that they're starting to basically plant those seeds that's going to start connecting to different places in the MCU.
Hang
you know,
on now.
here and there and
We had
everything.
Agatha. We had Ralph Boner. We had
Oh, how can you
Agatha.
forget about Ralph?
Oh yeah, and Vision.
yeah.
You mentioned Vision, but you forgot
You're
to
right.
mention Vision.
I forgot Double Vision.
I got that
We had
double vision.
Spectrum introduced in WandaVision.
Oh yeah. Captain
Yeah.
Marvel 2.0.
That's like
Still,
almost as many people as this.
the focus though.
Yeah.
You know, even though you had the Falcon and Winter Soldier, really the focus most of the time wasn't even on them.
It was on the Flag Smashers.
It was, and it was also on the events that were going on after Endgame.
Yeah.
All the displaced people and everything. That's what all the focus was on. You just had the Falcon and Winter Soldier in the middle of it, all of it. You know, and they're like, oh, what are these guys going to do? We're going to find out. Watch the next episode. You'll see, you know. What's new Captain America going to do? Watch and you'll find out.
He's gonna have a sidekick that's in the Air Force.
Now, I say my favorite character, I gotta say, although I was leaning towards Winter Soldier towards the beginning, just because his personality was just much better. I gotta say, by the end of the series, I gotta say my favorite is the Falcon. It really is. And I think it's that last episode that did it. Because not only did he finally take up the responsibility that he'd been tasked with to begin with, not to mention it's his fault because he started everything to begin with. He created the U.S. agent, essentially.
Yeah.
You know, he finally took responsibility. You know, and then he took up the mantle. But then, at the same time, he also made it his own. And I think that was a very important part because to me, the biggest mistake that John Walker made was trying to fill the shoes of Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
There was no way he was going to be the next Steve Rogers. There was no way. Everything he did was to line himself up to be just like Steve Rogers. But then you had the Falcon on the other hand, who's like, I'm not going to be Steve Rogers. That is not who I am.
I'm
You
not
know?
blonde-eyed. I'm not blue-haired. I am not Steve Rogers.
You know, but he is Captain America. But he is his own version of Captain America. He still has those core values, but he also is doing it a different way. You know,
With Stark Tech, Wakanda supplies, and Captain America's shield. And some cool flips.
absolutely.
But
He's
he-
very acrobatic.
Those
also-
flips were awesome.
And he knows how to kick the crud out of a tree.
But he also benefited from an entire show's worth of experience, which he put to use on camera in the first episode as Captain America.
Yes. All right.
Everything that he said in that interview with the bankers, I'm going to call it an interview, was directly because of stuff that happened over the course of the show, which he would not have experienced if he had been Captain America the entire time.
That's true. He was down on the nitty gritty. He was at the street level. He was learning what people were going through. He was feeling the sympathy for it, and that empathy is what gave him the ability to stand up for them.
Yeah.
That's a good. I like that. I didn't even think of that as a.
Yeah, that's a
take
great
on-
point.
Had he been Captain America, he would have been too far removed.
Yeah. He probably would have, at the time, been doing exactly what John Walker tried to do.
I don't think so.
Not exactly, but I get what you're saying. He would been.
But
I don't
would've
think
been
he would have
trying to
bashed somebody on
fill-
live television.
But he would have been trying to fill Steve Rogers' shoes instead of realizing that he had to be his own
Yeah.
Captain America.
I don't think he was anyways. That's why he rejected it. Because he wasn't going to fill in Steve Rogers' shoes. And if he wasn't going to fill in his shoes, he wasn't even going to try and take up the mantle. That's why he rejected it. I mean, that's just what I think of it. I mean,
Yeah, I think he was thinking there's only one Captain America, and that's Steve Rogers.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why he gave up the shield.
But the only way he would have picked up the shield at the first episode and kept us from having U.S. Agent formed is if he was trying to fill Steve Rogers' shoes.
Yeah,
Is-
yeah.
So is
I
this
think he
a
was
how it should have
also-
ended?
No, I think he was also afraid, though. I mean, like,
Yeah.
he legitimately was afraid of people not liking him, people saying,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
that's not my Cap.
That was made that
he
very
really
clear
didn't want to
at
be
the end.
jeered.
Yeah.
That's what he was thinking. Like that, basically, it was said outright. Like he that was a part of why he didn't
Yeah.
accept
And
the mantle.
eventually, had he gone that way, though, had he not actually gotten turned around, he would have been that old, disgruntled Isaiah Bradley. Like he would have said the what ifs. He would have
Man.
said I got dejected and left behind. But
Whoever played Isaiah, you are a fantastic actor. You almost brought me to tears, but I fought it off. I did not cry, but you made it very difficult for me. What would I
wouldn't
what?
have judged you.
No, it's okay. I would have judged myself.
He sat
Okay,
over there and said,
alright.
"Get back in there, Tier."
So let's go on to the next topic here. And why don't you go ahead and tell us what your favorite moment of the show was, even if it brought you to tears.
It did not.
Or
That's what I was
close
saying.
brought you
I did not cry.
It's close.
He was just a little allergic.
Misty-eyed.
There's so many moments, but honestly, I think it was that last moment when we see Bucky go back and talk to
Mr.
the old-
Tanaka.
Yeah, Mr. Tanaka, and I've never killed someone. I'll be honest,
Well, that's good to know.
never happened.
We were really worried about that.
We could.
Well, hold on a second.
I was a little concerned.
Freight train,
Oh.
October.
No, but so, despite whether or not he was in control of him, so I still felt like that took a lot of courage for him to go back and like, hey, I did this, and I know there's nothing I can do to make it right, but at least you deserve to know.
Yeah.
That moment I thought was just like the perfect closure for his character.
That, I mean, you only had one name left in this book.
Yeah.
Who likes to lose by 1 point?
But I thought that was a really nice moment for Bucky.
It was. It was a
You
pretty
know,
good moment.
Throughout the whole series, we see him like with the self-doubt, and the whole reason he was mad at Sam was because if he felt he couldn't do it, then maybe Steve was wrong about him as well.
Yeah, that was a great line.
I felt like that moment as well was also really good.
My happiness depends on you.
So.
He had a lot of very real motivations, though.
Yeah,
Cool
the theme seems to be
motivations,
self-doubt.
true
like-
self. And then to really imagine, like, this is a 90-year, not like Steve, where he didn't live for 90 years. Bucky did. Like, he's legitimately a 90-year-old.
Yeah, he
Oh,
is-
yeah.
he
Well, he
wasn't-
came in and out of cryostasis.
In and out, but I mean,
Yeah.
like, okay, let's say
He
he's at
saw the
least 60.
Soviet Union. He was alive for.
He was there
lot.
for all of those wars.
I mean,
So he saw it like a history
Then
crash
put to
course.
sleep, then reawoke.
I'm pretty sure the war Isaiah Bradley mentions was Vietnam, right? Or was that the Korean War?
Well,
Because he
No, I don't-
specifically mentions fighting Bucky in a war.
yeah.
So like, he was there. He's there for a lot.
I
of stuff,
assumed it
so,
was
like,
World War
I can
II.
just imagine
Because he is a super soldier,
Right,
so
that's
he's
always
aged very
on you.
well.
Yeah, he's aged, but
Let's see if we get an answer. Almighty research assistant.
But Bucky's also, like I said, gone in and out of cryo.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, cool, we're going to put him here so he doesn't
he
go
has.
past
I mean, I
expiration.
think Isaiah Bradley, though, they based him in large off of like the Tuskegee Airmen, the Black Panther Tank
Well, I
Brigade.
mean, the reason why I mention it is because I'm pretty sure.
World War II.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure Isaiah Bradley mentioned that they fought. They fought each other once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Took out half his arm.
yeah, he was here to get the rest.
But
Yeah, so his closure at the end was probably my favorite moment because, again, I'm a sucker for tragic heroes, and I like seeing them get at least, even if it's like a bittersweet happiness, it's like I still like that for them.
Yeah.
some closure.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite moment. Just the one
That scene.
moment.
That one scene.
Oh man, I don't know. Like as far as because that's 6 hours worth of scenes.
Just pick one.
Just to
pick
put
one.
some of them up there. I mean, like Baron Zemo.
No, you have to pick one. That's not fair.
You can pick a Baron Zemo scene. That's okay.
She told me I can't. She gave
You have
me
to
orders.
pick
She's my
one.
wife.
Your
I can't have my own
favorite,
mind.
not like a whole bunch that you liked.
Oh no, I'm just saying. Like out of all these moments, like Baron Zemo running through the freight cars and shooting people, that was cool. The Falcon scenes where he's flying, like even the intro scene, that's cool.
But which one's your favorite?
Right?
Favorite.
Thank you.
Favorite.
The one that's top of the line that when you think back 3 months from now,
See, I
this scene's
don't,
come in your
want to
mind.
say that the chopper bouncing off of him
That
was
was
my
cool.
favorite moment.
Yeah.
Why? That was a
that
cool
was pretty
moment.
cool.
That was awesome.
No, I got Crikey on cricket. Favorite moment overall? Daggum, man. Maybe the staring contest, ultimately, because that did show us where they both were. It was comedic, but it gave a balance to what this was all about.
It wasn't all comedic though. It was a pretty serious comedic
It was a very.
moment.
That's what I just said. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just said that it was
I agree.
balanced
That's
in
a good
that because it was comedic, but Bucky reveals like this is how I feel, and Sam also shows I'm going to be stubborn because this is how I feel, and that pretty much sets up the tone of what we're waiting to see. We're waiting to see Bucky accept himself, and we're waiting to see Sam become himself, and we're waiting to see this psychiatrist take a deep sigh of relief knowing that she doesn't have to see them again out of mandate. So I think, but that moment right there, them staring at each other, them talking to each other, that was a big deal.
Yeah, I was
liked
really
that.
annoyed at Falcon in that scene simply because, like, Bucky, revealed something, like something very personal to him.
Yeah.
And Falcon, he just, like, dismissed it
But that's
outright.
a couple. A
Yeah.
couple doesn't always reveal things
Yeah.
to each other at the same time. Sometimes one person reveals and gets vulnerable, and the other person gets stubborn
Yeah.
because they don't want to admit being wrong, or they don't want to admit that they're lost in what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And for those times when I become vulnerable and I see
Oh,
somebody,
That's how it goes.
Yeah, you are right. That does make sense. Like, they're couples
it
therapy.
was great. I
Yeah.
thought that was really good.
Well, if we're talking about heartwarming,
Just
cool scenes,
no,
So
just
your
cool.
favorite scene?
Just
Your favorite moment scene of the series?
Just one though.
Any
Oh,
of them.
please! You talked about like 5.
I didn't get to.
You did though. You worked it in there.
I had to.
He had to work through his thought process.
Got to take you on the ride.
I really enjoyed the montage of Bucky coming back and helping with the boat and, like, helping Sam and his family. And, like, that was sort of, to me, that was, like, the first indication that he was sort of going to be doing the work and coming back to what it means to be, like, a family, which he probably hasn't had for 100 years, literally. That was probably my favorite episode and sequence, just because that's like actual evidence of him having a reason to, do all of the work.
And to be human.
Yeah.
Admit that he was right-handed.
Yeah. And as far as like a scene that will stick with me, like you said, for like forever, is definitely the scene where he's crushing the dude's head with the shield. That was just like such a heartbreaking scene, and it's like that's the moment that.
That was epic.
Yeah, like what epic, yes, but like also like disgusting. Like, if Steve Rogers were here, it's like that's what you're thinking.
Yeah,
in your
you're
head.
the guy who's replaced Steve Rogers,
right.
and
Like
you're
if,
doing
like,
this.
you followed this is following.
The blood on the shield.
I think all the
you
U.S.
know?
Agent fans are like, yes! Because they know this is his origin story.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
true.
that was just
Ronnie was
heartbreaking.
really happy.
That
I-
scene is gonna stick
I
with
like-
me
I like to
forever.
think that if Steve Rogers had been alive in that moment, he would have set them all down and
We're
Talk to
like
all of
like,
them.
like they're
We're all
little
assuming
kids. Like,
Steve
now listen
Rogers
here.
is dead.
Yeah, he would have flipped the chair
Yeah,
around.
flip the chair around.
So you made a mistake.
See, that's something I don't
Tried
understand.
to be mean,
Steve
you
just-
murdered someone.
Steve is still alive.
She bashed
Yeah,
the
Steve
guy's
is
head
still
in with
alive,
the shield.
isn't he?
Let me tell you what's a mistake, first of all.
Steve
He's
is.
just aged out.
Yeah,
He's
he's
not
still
dead.
there. He's still alive.
He
Chris
is
Evans
at
just
home
didn't wanna
watching
play
the
him.
news on YouTube and going, "Oh, come on."
Yeah, he's watching all
Listen,
this.
I'm
I'll tell
watching
you
the
about
news
what
and
was
he's just
going
like,
on, but
Ah,
listen here, sonnies. Put the shield down, clean it off. It's gonna need a wet wipe.
My favorite scene was when Bucky is talking to Sam, and he tells him, "Look, when Steve and I decided that you should be the one that gets the shield, before Steve went back," and I was like, "Wait, Bucky knew the entire time." And I went back and watched Endgame, and Bucky's sitting there going, "Yeah, go ahead.
He
No,
nods at
no,
him.
really, go talk to him."
Yeah, you knew in that line,
Yeah.
final line there in Endgame, that he had with him. I mean, you knew it as soon as there's the foreshadowing right there. It's like boom, something's about to go down.
But they confirmed it here, and that became my favorite scene for the entire show.
And maybe Bucky had been chilling with old Captain America for longer than we knew.
Oh yeah, that could be true too.
Maybe he goes and plays chess with him in the park.
Maybe he does.
Who knows?
Oh, mind blown. I just thought of that.
Do you think they get
Maybe
beers?
sitting next to them playing chess in the park is a gentleman in a wheelchair who's bald.
The Canadian.
Hear me out. Hear me out.
No, and another Britishman.
Maybe.
He just doesn't seem to have to touch the chess.
They just don't know
pieces.
who each other is yet.
Yeah. That's a heartfelt dream. I like that. That's now my favorite scene of the whole show.
Oh, goodness.
What was the question?
When Baron Zemo danced, how did
Favorite
it make you
moment
feel?
scene.
Oh, I didn't
Even
see
if
that
it
part.
brought you to tears or close to it.
Well, I'm sure that if I had seen the Zemo dance, it would have. Like, I just saw the clip on YouTube, and I watched for it, like, the entire time, and I must have, like, blinked or something. It was a very short scene, I
was a
guess.
very
Were you
short
in VR when you watched this?
Yeah, maybe. So my favorite scene, I'm going to have to say, I guess it's either the last scene or, like, it was close to the last scene. It was Isaiah and his reaction to the memorial at the Captain America Museum, and like that actor made me believe the emotion that character was feeling, and I felt it too. And like,
That was a pretty good scene.
yeah, it was really good, And he hugs the new Captain America, and it's like I gotta fight this so Jessica doesn't see me cry.
Yeah, she will judge you.
Yeah, I know. She
will
says she
not.
won't, but she will. I
She
know.
always says that, but she'll judge you hard.
Yeah.
She'll call you.
Hardcore.
Oh, gosh.
What did you just say?
I said she'll call you a weenie.
She will. How did you know that's what she does?
Let's see.
I wouldn't call John a weenie.
Favorite moment in scene. I got to say is in the last episode.
The chopper.
No, it wasn't even the chopper. It was actually the truck. The truck that was falling,
Oh, yeah.
and then John Walker grabbed the truck.
Yeah, that was good.
He had a choice at that moment. Like he had a choice before when he bashed the dude's face in with a shield.
Yeah.
He could have sat there and went after her, which was his target.
He could have been as evil as her.
Could have gone after her and just let them fall. Or say, hey, you got that down there, right? And then run. Okay, he could have done that. Like that's what teammates do. But no, he didn't. He goes and he grabs the truck. And then, like Dan said, he fights the dudes off. He's in there with one hand, bam. You get out of here, I mean, it's like, whoa. I mean, it was a nice little moment there because you could see that he actually was really trying. But also in that moment, you could tell that he was now free.
Yeah.
That whole scene when he showed up, it looked as if like a weight had been lifted from him because he no longer had that burden of being the Captain America.
When he saw Sam was doing it, he didn't have to do it.
He didn't have to do it anymore. He
like-
didn't have to do that. Instead, he just reverted to his instincts, which is, I gotta go in here, I gotta save these people,
Yeah.
But I'll do it as me, not as this symbol.
Yeah.
So, I am glad for him though, 'cause that Home Depot show wasn't working for him. They were putting in dents, but he held his own. He held his own with like a stainless steel shield.
But, and I think the whole thing too, like his motivation, like having the Medal of Honor for his friend
Yeah.
Battlestar, that really shows the reasoning behind why he lost it. But at the same time, the whole thing is that he does feel that brotherhood. He does feel that obligation towards morality. He does want to protect people. Whereas it had been suggested to me that this Carly Morgenthau wasn't that bad of a person, that he was a bad person, and it could have been either way. It could have been either way. But in that moment, it showed the stark difference between the two. She was willing to kill people over whatever whiny idea she had. He got over himself to try and save people despite of what he felt or
Now,
thought.
I will agree. It did redeem his character in my eyes just a little that he stopped to go and move the truck.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
And you're right. There was
Steve Rogers lost Bucky, and he didn't immediately go and just bash someone's head in.
He
Thank
went and
you.
drank, and then found out he couldn't get drunk.
Oh, that's true.
That
He didn't kill
yes.
people.
That was the real tragedy.
Well, he
So
also
he couldn't get drunk.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, Steve Rogers also didn't take a side
Experimental.
manufactured serum.
Well, I mean,
Well, it's at the end of the day, the super soldier serum intensifies who you are.
Yeah.
Steve was
Not a drunk.
Boy
stand-up
Scout.
guy. He was a Boy Scout, and he was the kind of guy that doesn't like a bully. So he always fought back against bullies. But then think about all these other people, what they are, what they intensify. I'm super mad that I'm being told to go somewhere else. I'm not going to go there, so I'm going to kick some dirt in your face. Gets intensified into I'm going to blow up all the innocent people you have until you agree with me. So each of these people becomes more intense in how they're doing what they do. Even Red Skull, Johann Smith, was the same way. He became more vain, more intense,
And more red.
and red. That one I think
And more
really
skull.
was the early production phase. Didn't
Yeah.
mean to melt
So-
your face off.
basically,
He actually started out as Nicolas Cage, but then face off.
just avoid giving this super soldier serum to people who aren't Boy Scouts.
Well, if the effects last for longer than 4 hours, you really should have gone back to see the doctor. But he didn't.
Now you should have gone back to see the Power Broker.
She needs her muscle back.
Yes, we all know. So let's move on to the next point. And let's go ahead and do this, and let's do this. Let's go ahead and go around. Let's give your overall of the
shields?
entire show, what you think of it, highs and lows, and then give us 1 through 5 how many Captain America shields.
Okay, highs and lows. I mean, like I was saying earlier before we started recording, one thing I appreciate about it is even the villains. If you could say, John Walker was a villain, Carly was a villain. What I appreciate about them both is that they're both the heroes of their own story, and that's something I really appreciate about it, because in her mindset, she's not in the wrong. The world's in the wrong.
Her people don't exactly agree with her, but they are afraid of her.
Yeah, they did at
You
first.
don't tell them that they're going to sacrifice their lives.
Or the innocents.
To kill people.
From her perspective, she's just trying to make sure that homes that they were given aren't just taken and they're thrown to the streets. John Walker, is essentially told, hey, this guy doesn't want to be it. You're going to be the new Captain America. Good luck. By the way, you're not a super soldier. You got some of them running around now, too. So, again, I feel like highs and lows. I really enjoyed the villains for their own aspects. The whole relationship between Bucky and Sam was great because I really dig their frustration with each other and not being that it was something about the other they hated, but the situation that they feel like they put in because of Steve. 5 out of 5 Captain America shields.
I would say high points. The effects were mind-blowing. Watching the Falcon flight scenes, just from the initial start, from the first episode, Falcon flight scenes, cool things that he was doing with the shield, the drone, everything throughout the whole show, those were phenomenal to watch. The same kind of intense feeling you got when you saw Iron Man fly for the first time. It's like, oh man, this is
His
really
fight
cool.
scenes, too.
Yeah.
When he uses,
yeah. The way that he did things differently because you know that he's not superior. He has no healing factor. He has no super strength. He has none of that jazz. He's just a good soldier. He's in good athletic, I would say Olympian level shape.
One wrong move, he ends up like Battlestar.
Right.
Oh.
He could be that guy. And so, but I think it's fascinating to see that he is a conglomeration of Stark tech, Wakandan resources, and then that training from being with Cap and having the Cap shield by the end, that it really is like this hero born out of heroes, all of them. So I think that that's fascinating, and watching him save people off of the truck but doing it through technology and not strength, because that is his strength, was fascinating. So that was really good. However, taking those as the high points, and even the emotional pitter-patter that was going around, those are the high points. Low points. There were a lot of begrudgingly long, dull moments that I think that they did to make a point, but at the same time, it was like, don't talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old. I got it the first time you did it. Really drawn out. The second to last episode was hard to watch. I had a lot of tough times watching it because it was so... It was hard watching Sam get whiny. Like, because he really wasn't, but it was like they were trying to make it seem that way. Like, well, Isaiah Bradley convinced me not to be good. I feel really bad for Carly, but my boat's also going to go the way of the dinosaurs, and my parents are gone, and my sister needs my help. And it's like all of these things all at once. They had to remind us in this last recap episode of all the crap that he's having to go through and why he doesn't want to do the right thing. And then at the end, his sister's like, grow up, dude. But I mean, like, I think those are the low points for me, is like how long it took to tell me that. Whereas if you were watching a movie, just 1 2-hour movie, that would only be 15 minutes of your day. This became an hour of my day because they had that hour to tell it to me.
Well, and they were also telling a little bit more of Bucky's story in that episode.
That, yeah, and they did, and I appreciate some of the things, but low points was how long and drawn out it could get. So I think honestly, I'll give it 4 whole shields and 1 Thanos broken shield, so 4.5. Just because.
So is that like
1 US
4
agent
regular?
shield.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. 4 regular shields and 1 U.S. agent shield.
No, I'm not going to give him a shield. I'm going to go straight for the Thanos broken shield, because at least Thanos broke that. U.S. agent, he bought that crap at Home Depot.
He made it in his garage.
He made it. Like, and he's not even a weaponsmith.
I'm gonna
We don't
tack
even
weld
know
this
what he's
together.
done.
It's gonna
Like, what was
last.
he in the army?
I
Was
mean,
he
okay,
like
yeah.
motor pool?
I
He
mean,
used duct tape.
if you compare the shields, there's a stark difference between them.
Yeah. Yes. All right, Dad. But no, yeah. I would say
Yes,
4.5.
Snuck that one in there.
Just because there were some choices that they made that I don't necessarily completely agree with, especially with Agent Carter. I don't really necessarily agree with the fact that she is this power broker thing. But for the most part, they got across the message that they were sending to me. They talked about racial equality. They talked about civil rights. They talked about current world issues. They talked about responsibility, honor, duty. So I think they covered a lot of things, and they did so in a graceful, responsible way without being heavy-handed. So 4.5.
I'm going to say 4. Simply because it's hard. I think it's really hard to tell a story in 6 hours that could be told in, an hour and a half. But I do think they did a lot of things really, really well. There's a couple of things that I thought the writing was, they could have improved the writing a little bit. But they had enough of those heartwarming moments and enough character development of characters that you actually care about, that you've gotten to know over the course of this entire Marvel Cinematic Universe.
And cool camera shots.
And some really, really cool camera work. I remember more specifically in the first couple episodes being impressed with some of those camera angles and lighting, and especially the first, which one was first or second one, where they were they would switch between perspectives between
Everything
First
with
one.
Bucky was really up close.
Yeah.
And with the
That was the
Falcon, it was
first
really
one, yeah.
far away.
Yeah, it
And with
was
Bucky,
from
it was
very
like real dark and gloomy, and with Falcon, it was like bright.
Yeah, like with Falcon, they were
sunny.
trying to focus on like the broader picture and his family, and the lighting was softer and things like that. And then with Bucky, everything was like very up close. Like he was still, it was almost like we were supposed to be feeling as traumatized as he was in those moments.
And anything with the Flag Smashers seemed like a home video on a cell phone. It was real shaky
Mm-hmm.
to show how unstable
Yeah,
they
that's
were.
true. Yeah.
They
Yeah,
did great.
I'd say 4.
I think they did a great job.
I was going to go with a 4.5 as well. I think I'm just super happy that I called that Sharon was going to be the power broker pretty much as soon as they introduced her.
Well, she was in Madripoor.
She was in Madripoor.
You don't go there being a good person.
She was super rich in Madripoor.
Yeah.
And they started talking about the power broker who runs everything, and I was like, ha, called that one. And
Power broke her.
or did she break it? But like you said, I'm not positive how much I agree with what I know of her character being the power broker, with the exception that she was around during the blip. She's been living in very tumultuous times. So,
And
a
successful.
dishonorable discharge.
and she was not
Wanted by law.
allowed to be herself anymore. So it does make sense to me, at least. But my favorite part was when I saw her and I'm like, yeah, she's the power broker. And I started thinking of how she's going to be one of the big villains for the next phase. Because you don't call somebody the power broker when super serum's going around without having her be someone who matters.
That's true.
But I really loved getting to see a lot of the characters that we haven't been able to focus on quite as much because we were focused on the main Avengers, and getting to see them and actually learn some of their motivations in the MCU was great. And I really enjoyed all the scenes where Bucky's just hanging out with Sam's family and like letting them hang off of his arm while he's just talking to other people.
Yeah, now just give me a War Machine show.
Dude, I want to see that.
That's coming up.
No.
I would love to watch War Machine actually going all the way through his physical therapy.
But said they've already confirmed that the Armor Wars.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he actually was the first black guy to wear the Stars and Stripes in the MCU.
I'd be down to see more of Rhodey.
I love Rhodey.
Iron
James Rhodey
Patriot.
Rhodes, he like straight up cool.
Especially Don Cheadle Rhodey.
Yeah. Well, everybody forgot that one really weird phase
Oh, there was
he went
there was
through.
another one.
He went through a weird phase where he
the
kind of talked
allergy?
like a woman.
The allergy phase.
Yeah, it was allergies. Yeah, that's what it was. He's
Tree.
sinuses.
All right, I'm going to give it a. What am I going to give it? 1 shield out of 1 shield. It's either I like it or I dislike it. There's no like gradation.
Okay. So 5 out of 5 or nothing out of 5.
Yeah, either like it was worth my time or it wasn't, right?
So
He's
it's a
saying
5
there's
out of
only
5,
one
okay.
true shield, so he can only give it that one.
There you go. So like even though it's worth my time, I can still critique it. So I do kind of agree with Jessica in that, why did they take 6 hours to tell us a 2-hour story? There's a lot of filler in it. I think, and that slows it down a bit in places, and like what you were saying, that it gets boring at some points or drags, or the dialogue just is like, I didn't need to hear that. Like that doesn't, add to the plot or story at all.
Yeah, like why are you whining?
Or you're basically just repeating yourself using different words. You're not driving anything forward. And, if it had been condensed down to a 2-hour movie, then it would be amazing. So hence the 1 shield out of 1 shield. But like, I kind of wish they had taken that opportunity with the 6 hours they had, and really you could have fixed it with just better writing, I think. And there was some like kind of like appealing to like the lowest common denominator, not necessarily dumbing down of the writing, but like spoon feeding you some things that would have been fun to like, there was no intrigue. Like it was very straightforward,
It was
mystery,
very
yeah.
different from like WandaVision,
Yeah.
where you're sitting there trying to figure out like what is going on, and it's very intriguing, and you're like, whoa, what the heck? Who's behind all this? Oh, I know who it is. No, I don't know who it is. What's going on? But in this one, this was more like, I think, like you said, it's more fed to you each time.
It's spoon-fed to you. And, that's kind of boring for, like, sophisticated adults like ourselves.
But maybe it's a timeout between WandaVision and Loki so that you don't get too
WandaVision was
mentally wrapped.
Because I kind of feel like maybe
series.
that was the purpose, because WandaVision was definitely a more, like Scott was saying, like what's going on, where I feel like this was a traditional action show.
I know who those guys are.
Yeah.
But I do agree with
It was a
him
buddy
that there
cop
could
drama.
have been a little bit more espionage to
Yeah,
it, a little bit more spy mystery.
I
Like, the
mean,
Winter
I
Soldier was
guess.
fantastic. I
Because,
love that movie.
like Dan said, Sharon Carter, I don't think anybody was like, when she said I'm the power broker and then started shooting people. I mean, super happy she shot Carly because Carly was very annoying.
I definitely made gasping faces, but I wasn't surprised.
I
So
wish someone had shot that other dude.
Not Baron Zemo.
Not Baron Zemo.
are you talking about
Talking about John Walker.
John Walker?
Oh, John Walker, he's not a bad person.
But Baron Zemo will get around to it. He believes that there should be no super soldiers.
Yeah. Which that's something you can understand that perspective, someone like who's frightened of like a future filled with armies of super soldiers. It's too much power, and we went through this with the whole Civil War and the Accords and all that. Like that was the argument.
When
And
Kang
we also have...
reads the history books, it might actually paint Baron Zemo as a hero.
That's what I was about to say. So what you're telling
He
me
had
is
foresight.
Zemo was the hero of the story all along.
Yeah.
We just didn't know it.
I really did like how they did all the villains and gave them sympathetic, lines to follow. Like they're human beings.
cool
They're not
jackets.
monsters. Yeah.
'Cause they're the hero of the
Yeah. Zemo had a great jacket.
He had a great jacket.
Okay, one thing, Tony, I don't understand. Okay, is there something? It's probably in the comics. Zemo, in order to shoot someone in the face, he must cover his own. Like, why did he put his ski mask on?
I think that there are two facets to that. One, Nerd Boy. We needed to see him.
Well,
in
yeah, he looks
full
way
Zemo
cool.
gear.
I don't really like Zemo's face, to be honest.
Yeah,
You can cover that thing
It's
up.
hard to watch him and think of him as.
Sorry to the
intimidating
actor. It doesn't mean
because-
you're like unattractive
Well,
or
Daniel
anything. It's
Bruhl,
just
he just has more of like a. You expect him to be like a sweet innocent little brother face. Like, it's kind of hard to see him as like this devilish, evil Doctor Doom level dude.
yeah.
He
He is like Doctor Doom level.
But I think the
Yeah.
put on the purple mask was cool because it was a fanboy moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then secondly, I think it's that thing where he was actually showing his roots within the special ops that he was in. Like, it was him getting into mode. It was him putting on his war mask.
Yeah.
It's like war paint or anything else. This puts me into the zone. Boom. And then you saw how quickly and efficiently he shot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because he went straight John Wick since he put on the ski mask.
Yeah.
Just went boop.
And the rest of the time, he's always just kind of tilting his head and smiling.
He's very calm, collected.
giving people a different view of him.
Handing out Turkish delight to children.
I think like a drill instructor. How are you a drill instructor at work, but you have a family at home?
Yeah.
And you're
They
nice
made
to
you
your
feel bad
kids?
about him, too.
You got to take the hat off.
Yeah, he's putting his work hat on.
Good
his
guy
trigger.
Zemo.
Yeah.
Good guys.
Hand out Turkish delights.
Well,
And he gets slapped out of his hand.
and like you were saying, Zemo has very obvious reasons for hating the super soldiers, for believing that we should not have super soldiers, because for every Captain America, there's a Red Skull.
Or like in this case, there's like 10, super soldiers that are,
Or for even every Captain America, there's the Civil War. There's the Winter Soldier event where he crashed the helicarriers into. So even Captain America, in all of his greatness, had what did you call it? Consequences.
consequence.
For every shield, there's a Hydra.
Well, they talk about it in
even
like the first
What was
Batman,
the line?
escalation.
Rogers?
Oh, he
You
said
know.
that.
Right. What was the line?
Casualties
Superheroes
and
get
Casualties
super serum,
and
so do the villains have
consequences.
to compete. They need super serum too.
So what was your rating?
Knew
Oh,
you
1 out of
wouldn't
1.
1 out of 1 is my rating.
What about you, Scott?
What you guys talking about with Zemo? May actually a pretty good point. There's a couple of things with him that I noticed through it. So, one, with Zemo, he made some really good points. that really got you thinking, like, huh. Like when he was talking about the memorial for Sokovia. And he looks at, Sam and Bucky, and it's like, how often do you visit? Like, yeah, that's what I thought,
Yeah.
You guys never visited this, and this was his home there. It was a huge major event.
Yeah.
And so he made that good point. It's like, you guys talk about this is what you stand for, and you do this, but yet, what you are after caused this event, and then you're not even going and pay your respects. So I thought it was a pretty good how he did that. How it shows how he gets into the minds of each of these characters. He gets in their minds, and that's how he does it. And he plays it, and that's why he's a fantastic villain. Because like you say, he has no superpowers, other than being rich.
Yeah.
Which, as we all know, is the best superpower.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that money bought a bomb, so. And he learned very quick. You may be super strong, but you're not explosive proof.
Yet. They're figuring that one out.
Fire still hurts you.
They'll figure it out.
But yeah, he did pretty good on that. Now, one thing I will say, I was kind of not quite understanding. You had the Wakandans, who, very understandably, they wanted a piece of him.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as they get him, he goes to the raft.
Yeah.
Why?
Do you think maybe it was the fact that they just broke him out of prison?
No, Bucky turned him back over.
To the Wakandans.
But the Dora Milaje, he didn't just say, like, you can go kill him.
No, but
They still had to do it by law and order.
well, Wakandans have their own law and their own order.
Not anymore, because T'Challa brought them into the world scene, so they have to abide by like a United Nations kind of shindig, and
Yeah.
that event was against
True.
the United Nations.
But why bring in the Wakandans? If that is enough to suffice justice for them, why not just send them back to the raft? Like, without them. What was the purpose of bringing them in there?
Well, they showed up because
Because
they
that
didn't
was-
know that he wasn't going to go back.
But
to the
if
raft.
they're subverting to the law of the world, why are they on a manhunt after him if not to extract their own justice?
Just like anybody would be, a U.S. Marshal or anything, I'm going to hunt you down and take you to justice. The Dora Milaje, they're a police force. They're the top
Yeah.
of the line. They are the guard, the honor guard of the king. So I don't think that they showed up just to say, I'm going to kill this dude because he's not in jail anymore and I can. I think they showed up to say, yo, Bucky,
You
what's up, my man? We want him back in. And, oh, by the way, let's have a flashback scene so that we can remember how we gave you this arm and what you went through to get it.
we
And that
can
whole
take it
White
from
Wolf nickname that we gave
Yeah.
you. So that wouldn't
That's a
happen
lot of
without them.
inferring, though, and not a lot of touching on the series. That's my point.
Yeah.
They didn't touch on that very well as far as the motives and such. It was just a lot of, well, this is what I think, or this is what you could think, or you could think this, but it wasn't a lot of this is what it actually is. It wasn't very clear, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So that's one of my issues with it, is that they weren't very clear in certain parts.
They kind of showed up as just a challenge for a moment.
To me, it just seemed like they showed for a cool cameo, and that was it. Really, that's just what it seemed like.
When it could have
They
been.
really didn't bring any weight to it. They didn't
If
help.
Michonne
or-
had
I
been
mean,
there, there would have been weight.
They didn't really help. They didn't really help anywhere
'Cause of
on
the
screen with it.
dreads? Oh.
All they did was fight with the people who were trying to stop the super soldiers. So, if anything, all they did on screen was hinder everything. Off screen, they gave him a really nice suit, but they're always known for that, or giving everybody nice technology off screen. But that's what my point is. I don't think that was very well, to me, done, was bringing them in just for a cameo, pretty much. Just to say, hey, Wakanda's still here, guys.
But
But-
forever. It's always there. Forever. Wakanda forever.
But they
It's
did
in the
also
slogan.
give Bucky a chance to say, "Get this man some wings."
They did.
Off screen.
So there's a couple things there, but I agree with y'all in the fact that it felt like it was drawn out. It really did. It felt like it could have been shorter. They had a lot of filler moments. Man, it had some really good scenes. I mean, it really did. And when the action was moving everything along, when the plot was moving along, to the action, when it was actually moving along, it moved, and it was fantastic. But then when it stopped, when you had that transition scene, it's like, what are you guys doing? Like, you've already kind of touched on this, like last episode, and the episode before that, and the episode before that.
Well, they're
Are we just
reminding you-
recycling scenes now? Is that what we're doing?
They're reminding you that this is important.
I guess. Now,
Watch for 4 movies from now when this pays off.
we'll see. Now, I will say I did enjoy was they actually did do a good job of bringing into light with this situation, with people just showing up after 5 years of being gone, the government issues,
Socioeconomical issues.
social issues, justice, you know. It's like and they brought. There's a lot of issues you got to think about. And they made a good point with that senator at the end of the episode. It's like, you don't understand. We've got to deal with this, and this, and it makes sense because you do. I mean, just think about it. Hey, I was in prison, but I blipped for 5 years. Does that mean I get 5 years taken off my sentence? Time served? You know? I mean, you got to think about that. It's kind of like, oh yeah, or you know, like, hey, I own this house.
Yeah.
5 years later, somebody else is living in it.
You just now became roommates.
Yeah. So, I mean, they did a good job in bringing up those points, and I thought it was pretty neat. It gets you thinking about the world that everybody returned to, because it was not the same it was before, nowhere near. It's even more chaotic. To me, I believe it's even more chaotic than it was that 5-year period, because now, with those people all being gone, you started adjusting to a new way of life, and then all of a sudden, all these people show back up, and now everybody's trying to adjust back to a previous way of life.
Just think about all those
Well,
poor...
it's change.
Yeah.
So like you're saying, it's adjustment, growing pains, change. Change always hurts.
We
When
want-
Thanos first snapped, everybody disappeared. Everybody went into a depression. Nobody could get over it. But then they adapted. What they adapted was a new system. Everybody shows back up, blows up the system, change. So, I
Yeah.
mean, this too shall pass.
Y'all want to talk
But
about
the
loss.
things that like Bucky said, or not Bucky, Sam said to that senator, that last commentary, I could have done without some of it was showboating, but the few points that he made where he said like, you're you're great, you can do all these things, you own banks, you can do whatever you want, but who are you surrounding yourself with? Who are you making these decisions with? More people like you or more people that need it? Like that. He made valid points that we all get frustrated with when we're watching C-SPAN, when we're actually watching people who make these decisions for us. And they're the same people arguing the same points all the time. It's who are you, who you actually, where are you coming from, and who you actually helping. And that's, I think, the really cool points he made at the end.
Yeah.
He was going to be an activist. He was going to be a spokesperson.
Yeah. And I also enjoyed the nice little drops there of the hints of X-Men all throughout.
There were a lot of hints.
There were quite a lot of hints. That was pretty cool.
They were not even subtle. Big old X on the side of things and stuff.
Yeah. But overall, I have to say, to me, I had to give it 3.5. The characters, a few of the characters were fantastic, but a lot of them, it just felt like there wasn't any connection. Like great connection, like with WandaVision, like you could connect from episode 1, you know, of what she's going through, what's going on, or you know what's going on with the people who are being subjected to her control. You know, they did a good job pointing on that having that emotional connection with the characters. And this, it didn't feel like you were connecting as well with them. Like you were trying really hard with doing all this backstory and everything, but just wasn't hitting the right strings to me. You know, to me, I think the one character that did the best was Zemo. And partially because of, well, his character, his lines, the way it was written, everything. Another one that he kind of half and half was the Falcon. You know, when you could connect with him, understand with him when it came to being the next Captain America and his struggles and everything. You know, but as far as his personal life, it was kind of like, okay, where did this come from? You know?
Well, he's pointing out that superheroes need paychecks.
That was a good point. I thought that was pretty neat how they brought that in there. But anyways, to me, I think, I give it 3.5. I give it, 3 Captain America shields, and then the half is the banged up U.S. agent shield of steel.
That's the buy 3 get 1 free. That's the free one.
No, that's when you order a Captain America shield and it says we'll ship it to you, but it got lost in China for a while, and then it shows up like that.
That's when you order from Wish.
John Walker wanted to cosplay Steve Rogers, and his shield just wasn't up to code.
But yeah, I mean, it was entertaining, but I'm excited to see what they do moving forward, because we got a whole lot of other series coming. We got Loki coming up next. They announced the Armor Wars.
Secret Invasion.
Secret Invasion's been announced, along with the Mother of Dragons supposedly taking on a role in there.
Yeah, hopefully a Spider-Woman.
And Black Widow's going to introduce us to her replacement.
Yeah, so we'll finally find out who that. And if I'm not mistaken, I do believe that Isaiah Bradley's grandson is a Young Avenger as well.
Yeah.
So it's out of all
so.
of the Young Avengers that we've already been introduced to, I believe that very annoying grandson that he had was also another one.
I believe I've seen him.
The Patriot.
In, I think he showed up in the TV show that's got Kamal Khan.
Well, I don't want to talk about that. But
yeah. Anyways,
Different universe.
so that will go and conclude this episode of Let's Discuss. Thank you for joining us once again as we went around and just discussed the series that we watched for the past 6 weeks. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, wherever you get your podcast from. Or on YouTube. If you found us on YouTube, fantastic. Subscribe to the channel. There's more coming. And also, when you get a chance, take a look at all of our other things that we have going on too, other than Let's Discuss. We have Actual Play Podcast. We have video recaps. And we'll have even our own little web series going on. So be sure to look out for that.
greatest gaming system known to man. Buy the book.
So until next time, this is Saturday Night Gaming signing off.
And now the spoilers are over.